I love this movie so much, I almost don't want there to be a second one because I love how it ends. Do you know where his story goes from here?
Well, I don't think we're gonna make a second
No.
one. I mean, that's just not in our
And I mean that as a compliment.
No,
It's
I
not that I
know,
don't
and
want-
I
yeah.
agree with you. I mean, I feel the same way.
I don't really know what it was about the first Joker movie that got me really excited in its initial press run. For one, I'm not really that big of a fan of comic book stuff. I think I was just excited about the tone of it all. I think it was really that first camera test. You know the one. There was a believable design for wardrobe and makeup. The camera and lighting was gritty and dirty, very different than the clean and polished look that a lot of the movies by these superhero studios were producing. And of course, the choice of music that I will not play here for copyright reasons. It was pretty exciting to see that. It felt grungy and fresh for it. Even though there was a lot of lore and background to the character, I didn't really know or care about any of it when it came to this movie. And I had a feeling that the creators of the movie didn't care about it either. And I loved that. Then the announcement for the sequel came about, and I was pretty skeptical by it, as a lot of people were. It just kind of felt unnecessary. I mean, even the creators and the filmmakers behind the movie were skeptical and voiced concern about any ideas of a follow-up movie. And then during some time in the production, it was leaked that the new movie would be a musical, and fans were livid, foaming at the mouth. Oh, our sweet Joker boy is gonna be tarnished by musical, ah! And look, even though I've never enjoyed musicals myself, I've never really been a huge fan of them, with some exceptions, I was actually kind of excited by the idea of the film being a musical. Arthur's already pre-existing musicality just felt like a perfect mix with a genre. And on top of that, you have a justification for it, right? You have this sort of prison inmate music program that Arthur attends. On top of that, throw in a love interest. I mean, it's just perfect, you know, when you're in love, everything's very musical and sing-songy and perfect. And it just that felt like a really fascinating expression of this kind of a character who is already kind of living in La La Land and already very musical, kind of internally falling in love. To me, that felt ripe for a very fascinating and very fun movie, at least. Then I went to the movies and I saw it, and the plot felt like it was just meandering along. It didn't feel like it was really going anywhere most of the time, unfortunately. Some of the musicals did fulfill that promise of musical madness that I was anticipating, but for the most part, it was just kind of filler, if you could call it that. Filler, yeah. There just wasn't a driving of plot with most of the music. It was just kind of like, here's an idea, let's sing about it, and then let's go on to the next scene. The music didn't introduce any new information, it didn't drive the plot forward. For my limited research, it didn't seem that there were any musical theater writing experts who were offered a role as a lead writer or a partnered writer, a co-writer on the screenplay. I'm sure they consulted a lot of people probably, and probably very talented people they consulted. I think when you don't have the experience and you're pulling something off for the first time and you have a huge budget like that, it's just wise to bring in a new writer with that perspective who could have said, hey, this is all musical exposition. You need to cut the scene and make it an entire musical moment. In strong musicals, in proper musicals, the songs are moments to advance a story, to introduce new ideas that are at play, or show a transition of character. Here, they were just kind of set pieces that interrupted the flow. Now, I did go to the movies to watch this movie having already heard some of the buzz that it was really bad. I was giving it a chance. Maybe it was just some hardcore comic fans that were mad that Joker laughed like me-ha-ha instead of me-ha-ha. And then I sat in the theater, I reclined my couch, and yes, there were couches in the theater. And it started, and I kind of enjoyed it for the first 30 minutes. And then it just kind of dragged, and then it dragged more and more, and I started to realize, oh, I see where people are coming from. I thought it was people who were mad about it being a musical, or die-hard comic book fans that were frustrated that there wasn't like some multiverse crossover where there was cameos by Ryan Reynolds playing the Batman or something. But as I watched the movie, it got it kind of stunk. The film opens up with this animated little short film as a way to kind of funnily introduce the idea of the Joker being this alternate shadow personality of Arthur that gets him into all sorts of trouble. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was really interesting to open up like that, and I immediately saw it and I thought, oh hell yeah, this is so fun. From there we see a day in the life for Arthur in Arkham. From there the journey follows the build up toward the trial for those murders that he committed in the first movie. He gets a chance to join a music program in the prison where he gets to meet Harley, another crazy like him. She, being an extreme crazy serial killer stalker fan, awesome premise, goes through extreme measures to win his approval and get closer to him. She burns down the asylum during a watching of a musical for a chance to escape with him. Also awesome. They're captured and Arthur is set to solitary confinement. And then Harley is let go from the prison because Arthur is a bad influence on her. We later find out that she actually admitted herself into the asylum for a chance to meet him and get closer to him. He confronts her about this lying, to which she admits it, and then they immediately make up and get back to their happy fantasy. Arthur's defense attorney tries to make the claim that he is sick and deserves actual psychiatric help, whereas the DA is looking for the death penalty and thinks that he is sane and was sane when he committed his crimes. That's back to the intro of the animation, then it kind of just alluded to that. Eventually, he fires his defense attorney and represents himself, embodying the Joker to appease Harley and the crowd and his supporters. Eventually, he gives in and chooses to face reality as himself rather than trying to fight it as the Joker. Disappointed, Harley decides to leave the courtroom, and then out of nowhere, a bomb goes off and explodes a wall in the courthouse. Arthur then escapes and goes to find Harley and says, hey, we can run away and live happily ever after. But Harley dismisses him, saying that he killed the fantasy, and she wants nothing to do with Arthur and only the Joker. And he's then captured, thrown into prison, and then while walking to go see a visitor, one of the inmates kills him, shanks him, he drops dead, and that's the end of the movie. I assume it's because he let down the movement by dropping the Joker symbolic figurehead, I guess, role, and he then cuts his mouth in the background, all blurred and mysterious, implying that he kind of takes that mantle, this figurehead for the movement, himself. And now this cultural shift, this cultural movement that he's so troubled by, has a movement, a momentum that continues beyond him and no longer needs him. He's lost complete control, and there's the tragedy in our saga. I want to take these off because I feel like the reflection of my light is really distracting. Now here's why I don't think the movie works as good as it could. And it's mainly the script. I think the script is where it falls flat. Everything else is phenomenal. I mean, the lighting, the cinematography. Lawrence Sher is a godsend to this movie. He's a very talented individual. I think the main problem is the script, and more specifically, the expression of the film's central thematic idea. So this is what I thought the film's central theme was, or the thematic idea that it wanted to explore. I have it written down here, so I'm going to read it from my phone. Is there a darker personality that takes control? Is Arthur going to take on the mask of Joker to continue facing his troubles, or will he take responsibility and abandon Joker and face reality as himself? But the way that the script approaches it, I think, is just too subtle. It's other characters that are arguing whether or not he is sick and needs help, or sane and deserves to die. He's also pulled and manipulated into embracing the Joker personality by Harley, which I think is cool. But I think Harley's manipulation of Arthur should have been a much more significant source of the film's conflict. Arthur doesn't really act in a way where he's dealing with this problem. He's kind of just beat up throughout the whole movie, and other people are trying to figure out what to do with him. Harley's trying to figure out how to make him re-embrace the Joker. His old attorney's trying to make him to accept that he's sick and needs help. The DA's trying to make sure that he gets the death penalty. The rioters are trying to just free my boy because he did nothing wrong. They're trying to do that. But Arthur's just kind of sad and then beat up all the time. And then when he finally puts on the Joker makeup, he makes a fool of himself in court, and then he gets a death penalty. I think there's two directions that the plot could have gone with the central idea of struggling between these two identities or these personas. One, he struggles with this personalities until he eventually chooses to live life as Joker in order to appease Harley and the mob. He would then live a life being someone that he knows he isn't and forever be trapped in a mess that he made himself. Or he could choose the Arthur personality, like he actually did in the movie. He ends up suffering for that. Now, the current movie has it that he accepts like there's no Joker, I'm just me, I'm just Arthur. He then gets killed by a guy in prison, and that's the movie. Okay, maybe that could have been an interesting ending if it didn't, one, come out of left field, and two, if there was a better movie that built up to that climax. Again, the whole movie he was just beaten up and tortured and bullied. And then he appeases Harley by putting on the makeup and embodying the Joker in court, but he doesn't really gain any real power from it. He has no control regained from putting on that mask. It's futile, it's useless. If he, acting as the Joker, regained control over his situation and was able to right the wrongs that were done to him, like kill those prison guards that tortured and beat him, escape by his own merit rather than just by pure chance like in the movie, and then afterward choosing to drop the act. This could have justified that ending while giving us a cathartic experience of him using the Joker as a way to truly empower himself before surrendering the Joker, realizing that he loses control as a Joker rather than gains it. That's so much more fascinating to me. Look, I believe this movie could have succeeded if either one, they hired a musical theater writer as a co-writer, a partner, rather than just a consultant. And two, if the pressure of the first movie's success did not push them to rush it out. If they developed this film and wrote the script on spec, giving themselves more time to work on it and go through iteration and iteration and iteration after iteration, that would have definitely helped the movie actually find itself. I think that the movie was still trying to figure out what it was, and then it was like, well, we lost time to do pre-production, so let's get the cameras rolling and let's get the crew out there and let's make the movie. And they just had to do it. Look, I actively refrain from criticizing other people's works of art on this channel. I think making a work of art that fails at its goal is more challenging and takes more skill than any critic could ever muster up. I mean, hell, I even talk about this in a previous video, how valuable works of art that fail at their goals are. I more just wanted to make this video as a reflection. Why could a great premise like this fail? And where can we as emerging learning artists learn from that? And look, I think all the criticisms, whether they come from me or anyone else on YouTube, because everyone is completely dunking on this movie right now, it should all be taken from a certain perspective. It's a lot easier to fix a broken car than it is to build a car from scratch, even if that car is a complete piece of junk.